So Tinder, there's no profile. It's just
No, there
picture?
is a profile.
Okay.
I guess there's probably a limit on how much people can write. So usually it's just like a paragraph or like one or two lines.
Okay.
It's evolved since then. So at the beginning, it was probably like 4 or 5 photos, your age, your location, and it's all based on your location. So you can set like I want to meet people within 25 miles or 100 miles,
like that.
and it's like about to that. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that one. I haven't checked that one out yet, but I don't want to
I
be
don't
like on
think
all
you
of
should.
them.
I don't know what I've heard. I mean, we did meet, but I'm saying overall, I think it's more of a hookup.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, and Tinder
probably.
definitely has that reputation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question. You said in the beginning you start out with the person. If I was listening correctly, the person you were dating in the beginning, you met him online.
Yes.
What year was that around?
2013.
Okay, so you've been online,
Oh,
the
gosh.
online thing. You know a little bit about
Too
the
long.
online thing, right? Okay, but 2013 is not that old. But I just thought, oh
That's
wow,
a good
That's
you
what I
point.
actually
meant.
met
Yeah,
someone.
yeah.
So that's what I guess
Right.
maybe it started taking off.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, it was through your church, so it was like.
Right. So I
A
knew a
dating
little bit
site.
about our values. Yeah, Christian, Mormon, LDS. So I kind of know like, oh, we have similar values. You know, family's important to us. You know, probably doesn't drink, probably doesn't smoke. So it gives you already like a big filter. You know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then and I know if we're talking about religion, an important part of it too is like the celibacy aspect of it. Okay. And so it's funny because I'm just getting to a point now where I can talk about it and not giggle, I guess, or get comfortable. So yeah, that was important to me, you know, dating after a divorce as well, and you can understand that's difficult. I think they say it's even more difficult after you've been married. And so anyway, so I gave Tinder a try kind of just as a favor for my friend. And then later I found myself like watching TV and swiping, and I'm like, this is the most like efficient, brainless activity because like you're getting something done, but you don't have to think about it very much.
Right.
And then, excuse me, I got good at like, I'll say that I went on a ton of Tinder dates, and never was I shocked or surprised by the person. Like I felt like I got to read them really well through their profile. It's a skill. I can give some tips. But like you guys were talking about the height thing earlier.
Yeah.
A lot of short guys won't show them next to other people, but I can tell like if you look at the difference between their shoulder and their elbow, and there's like there's just bicep or there's a little more room after the bicep, then you can kind of tell if they're short or
That's interesting.
Right, that's very interesting. I wish I would have known
She's
that.
definitely a pro.
Right. But I also was wondering, you know, like I mentioned, I was a single mom, and I remember wanting to go on dates, but not having anybody to watch my kid, for instance.
Right.
My parents were retired, and my mom, she would always say, like, oh, I can watch them Saturday nights because they didn't go out because they had church the next day. But I remember, like, maybe going out once a month, and then as I started dating regularly and going out once a week, my dad was like, are you on drugs or something? Because he felt like I was going too much. Like, what do you mean am I on drugs? Like, it was so crazy. I was so annoyed. I'm like, I never leave my child, first of all. It was just like a small window. So I'm just curious, as you have 3, how do you find the time to actually go on these dates and move it past the apps, move it past the phone conversations?
So at that point, you know, early on, with just my 2 from my previous marriage, we had a schedule and pretty regularly where they go with their dad. So that would be like my next designated day to like go out or you know, do my own thing. And then after that, so 6 years later, I meet this guy through Bumble.
Bumble.
I've been on
Okay,
all,
so
yeah.
Another one, yeah.
Hey.
This is all like new, like I said, new to us, so it's interesting for sure.
I want to give like a disclaimer for people who are considering the apps or have a certain idea of the reputation of the apps. When I first got on Tinder, a lot of my friends from church, you know, at church we focus a lot about families and eternal families and finding your eternal companion. And I feel like I've been through so many like singles things at church and nobody asked anyone out. I think because there's that pressure, like you have to seem like perfect for eternity before I even give you. And I'm like, it could be casual. Like you could just have fun with someone, make a connection, learn about yourself and them, have a good time, and be friends or something. So I think it all has to do with like your, like you decide your intentions on what you're gonna do. So a lot of my girlfriends would be like, how are you gonna find your eternal companion on Tinder? I'm like, well, I'm not looking for that right now. I'm looking to have like fun with good company and learn about myself. And so that's exactly what I got out of it.
So when you would go to the church, it was more like they were expecting you to meet your husband?
Well, I mean, just because everyone has that as like a goal, you know? And so I feel like everybody, it's not mentioned in that way, but I felt like subconsciously everyone's kind of thinking of it that way. Like I need to see like perfect marriage potential before I even go out.
And even though you were coming from, you know, a marriage, you were just trying to, you said that was your first boyfriend, all that, so you were just trying to date, you weren't really looking for anything serious. Yeah.
Right.
So my question to you is what was your strategy? Like, I know a lot of times women are always getting messaged first, or the communication comes from them first. Did you ever reach out to someone? Did you have a strategy? It sounded like you did a little bit with the arm. You could tell some stuff.
Well, that's funny. Okay, I'll be very vulnerable. I'll say like in like a singles group hangout thing. If I see a cute guy, I go near his area and see if he'll make a move, right? Because it is important for me to have like a guy who's assertive and makes the first move.
Old school.
Yeah, and I was very old school, and I remember in middle school thinking, I feel bad for like guys, you know, who are expected to ask girls out and deal with rejection. But I'm like, but wait a minute, women have to give birth, so I think it's pretty even. So then I started expecting them, like, okay, I'm willing to give birth. You better step up your game and ask me out.
Okay, that's
so,
the job.
But then when I started getting online, it was interesting because I did meet guys who like obviously there's interest, but they never asked me out, and I was over it. And then on apps right away, like, oh, you're attractive, you're pretty. Tell me about yourself. Oh, I'd love to get to know you. I'm like, thank you.
Right.
And so I started going out with guys. Very pleasant experiences. I never felt in danger. Again, you know, I had my intention. I knew, you know, to meet in a public place. There's certain things that you learn over time. And a lot of them are good friends of mine now. And like I'm friends with their wife or their kids. Yeah, because I had that innocent intention. You know, like if there's a romantic spark and he wants to kiss me, you know, I'll be open to that. But my first thing was just to like hang out and get to know someone. And it's funny because a lot of them online, you know, before meeting would like compliment me up and down. And then when I get there and I'm like greeting them with a hug and they're like, don't know how to take it. And I assume that most women aren't like that. And maybe, you know, yeah, you tell me, Jermaine.
So this is what I'll say. And this is just a reality with regards to dating. I'm not a big online dating person, but it makes sense as you get older. It makes so much sense. But what I will say is this. It was so much easier to have confidence, and I don't want to say hide behind the app, but it's just easier to say what you feel when you're not in front of the person, because then you're not, it just makes it easier. Like for myself, when dating came, to be honest with you, when I was younger and I dated, I almost did what you did. I just waited for girls to sort of I was interested in girls who were interested in me. Of course, you always saw a girl and it's like, oh, she's cute. But when I was younger, I didn't have the confidence to actually go up and say anything. And then when the apps came out, and you know, when I started clubbing and stuff, it was a little different. You get a little alcohol and it's different. We call that you have a little more confidence. But on the app, it made it a lot easier. But when you get in person, a lot of times, as a guy, you know, you don't want to be too forward with anything and overstep your boundaries or make the girl unimportant. But if the girl was, you know, open and said she wanted to hug or do anything like that, then I was open. But it's easier to hide behind the app, I would say, and say how you really feel and not have to worry about, you know, you saying something bad. Because if I'm just messaging people and I say something, and if you as the woman don't like it, then you won't respond. But the rejection is not as bad as in person.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that.